This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, buddy. This is crazy. Okay, co-host there set to you, Santino, and then I sent Alpha the link to come on in here. This is crazy. Did you get it?
I'm up here and you sound crystal clear.
I am on my cell phone now, everybody. So I don't know what happened, but it crashed. I'm like, what the hell? So anyway, I'm on my cell phone. I don't have an echo. Yay! All right, everybody. If you guys don't mind reposting the space and get some more people in here, Alpha's got some great information that he did speak about on his show last night. But I just kind of have him recap it a little bit for those didn't watch it last night. So we'll hang tight, and if you guys want to request a mic, feel free to. And then that way, if you guys have questions for Alpha, you guys can ask when he gets in here. So go ahead,
Um,
Santino. If you want to say something, I'm gonna unmute some
No
mics.
problem. Thank you so much. We also have a purple pill now too as well, so that's phenomenal. So you can go down to the purple pill, which is a little easier. Just like, share, quote, share the space, get this out there. Some more people come in. I just sent a message to Alpha that you were starting a new one as well. And I just want to that breaking news because I think it's just phenomenal news. Looking at the amount, the Swiss pharmaceutical giant Roche is to officially invest $50 billion in the United States to avoid tariffs. So this is actually a big, huge, massive win for the United States as far as I'm concerned. It's exactly what Trump's plan was, and it's working magnificently. So I'm going to put that back up in the pill again because the nest again, because it's just really epic news. And this is the kind of stuff we have to talk about. Positivity, going in the right direction, rebuilding the country back in. This is exactly what President Trump wants.
Amen to that. And these are the wins that we're talking about, everybody. How big or small they are, they are wins that we need to be hanging on to because, there's just a lot of doom and gloom out there. And if you don't have a strong mind, I can see, and I have seen, unfortunately, many people that I've seen walk this journey, kind of on the same wavelength that you are now. They're getting sighted and they're kind of going on the other side. So just be careful, everybody, because it can be pretty mind crushing to many for those that thought they were walking the right way, and they probably were, but now they're going to the dark side. So just be careful, everybody. It's crazy out there. All right, we're gonna wait for Alpha. I see MV in the house. What's up, MV? How are you? Hopefully your dandelion jam's going well. I saw that. That was cool. Yeah, so if you guys want to ask a question, did Alpha respond to you? Because I sent him the
I
link as
just sent him
well.
a link as well. He hasn't responded just yet, but we have two hands up. We have Sunshine Sergeant up again. So I think that Sergeant was in the middle of his question. I'm not sure. And then we can go to Sunshine if you
Yep.
like.
Go ahead, Sergeant.
I'm gonna let Sunshine go first because my question is more directed to Alpha, and hopefully he shows back up. But if he doesn't show up back up, I'll re-ask my question.
Mine was directed a little
Awesome. Go for it,
bit
Sunshine.
at Alpha too, but I can go ahead and share with everybody else. I don't mind. Um, as many of you know, about Project Milk Carton, and what we've been doing the last few years, it kind of was an organization that we broke off from General Flint, and his America First uh, project, helping kids. And our goal, we've kind of been going after more of the teenage kids that the police are not looking for. They kind of consider them throwaway kids, which is just terrible. It's a terrible way to say, but it's just what they are considered. We now have a 501c. We're totally legit. We cannot post a child's picture until we verify that they are missing through the police, blah, blah, blah. Now, when this started, we got attacked, throttled. Okay. I was really exposed. And I'm like, you know what? Forget it. Go ahead. You guys can put my address out there. You can do whatever you want. I don't care. My face is out there now. They can do whatever they want. And now that I am a full-fledged card carrying board member, it's funny because we've done a little transition now that we've got our 501(c)(3, they're coming at us again and just really attacking everybody that is on the team. And we're doing nothing but saving children. So what does that say about these horrible people? And General Flynn and Mary Flynn have helped us so much through this whole process of getting this going, and Shepherd's Watch and all of that. So, do me a favor. If you do see anything with Project Milk Carton, we'll get the cartons going again as soon as we can. Please give them a boost when you see it, because we all really take big hits for being on this team, and especially as board members.
Sunshine Alpha is in the house now. If you wanted to ask that question, go ahead, please.
Oh, I was just letting everybody know how we get throttled, as he was saying some of these tactics. I mean, we're not really honeypotted, but we're hunted down and exposed, in intimidation tactics. And Alpha's very aware of the Project Milk Carton. He's very aware of, Flynn's organization and everything. So he knows all of that.
Thank you so much. Let's go back to Sergeant, and then we'll go to John, new speaker. Go ahead, Sergeant.
Hey, thank you. Alpha, anyways, I wanted to continue my line of inquiry here. Is at what point does it, obviously our media is kind of biased, so the good stories don't get through. They get like 30-second soundbite and they're gone the next day. But the bad guy ops seem to go on for weeks or months on end. Do you think we're going to see a change in that direction as things ramp up, where we're going to start seeing more and more good guy stories and give people their heart back, give them hope, and then kind of shift the winning of hearts and minds again? What are your thoughts?
I don't think we're going to see that in the immediate future. And one of the reasons being is you're going to see mainstream media start to acknowledge the obvious. But if you want to pull away the eyes and ears that have been pretty much programmed to rely on mainstream media for true and factual content, then all of a sudden you can't have the turn to Jesus moment in Mockingbird Media, because then it makes everybody start to trust media again when you haven't really had a full awakening and disclosure. So you're going to see mainstream media on both sides continue to address the obvious from time to time. We'll be like, oh, they actually said the truth on this one. But it's not, there has to be a push to alternative media and alternative news sources before we can ever go back to an established media. And we may never go back to an established media, because some of the things that are coming down the chain there's going to be a shift in our technology. And that shift in technology, as it's been hinted to me, is completely going to change everything, including the speed at which information is obtained and regurgitated. So I don't think, at least at our level, nobody really has a true idea of what media is going to look like in 18 months and 24 months. So for the interim, I think we're going to see a push towards alternative media, towards citizen journalism, the stuff that you see like on X and radio and podcasts. And my assessment would be, I think we're going to see the end of corporate media. I don't think we
Amen.
ever go back to it. I think what corporate media is going to turn into is more of like PBS. Here's content for this and content for that. But I think you're going to see a few dinosaurs that kind of linger around, that are popular on either side. And as they expire, you're not going to see replacements. And in the next 5 to 7 years, you will just see the complete end of mainstream media being an element of news.
Legacy media is dead as we know it, right, Alpha?
100%. Absolutely. I'll tell you what, if somebody's interested, what you're going to see a rise in, and this is one of the things that me and Josh talked about last night too, with this AI and how you're going to have, a sovereign wealth fund and that conversation. But the way this new media will potentially look like, think of the, here's a good example. Think of the way a combat correspondent operated. I think you're going to see that kind of position. Not that it's going to be, people going out to combat in war zones, because I think we're going to see the end of that as well. But I think you're going to see the beginning of a new billet of people that are boots on the ground that are working with people like me. Hey, I'm going to be over here, at this particular incident or event or whatever the case may be. And I think you're going to see the combat correspondent, so to speak, this new contract position that everybody's going to want to tap into. And I actually think that that's going to be a very lucrative position to have in the coming decades. So if you're somebody that's like, you know, I don't want to do a podcast, but I like this, then I would probably start looking at some old films of combat correspondence and look at the great ones. I know a lot of people are not fan of Michael Yon and some of the positions he's had. I'm not a fan of some of the positions he's had recently either, but he is one of the probably most perfected combat correspondents and how to do the job out of. You could add all the hours of every combat correspondent that's ever existed, and he has more than all of them combined. So I would tell people, go back and look at footage of the way Michael Yon did his work, and think of a way you can make that your own, and start thinking about, being a quote unquote combat correspondent in this new wave of media that's going to be coming.
Thank you, Alpha. Okay, John, go ahead. Your hand's up.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's John, obviously, and my really is not so much a question for Alpha. It's more bringing light to the situation to many truthers about who you use as your sponsor. And Alpha, I think you bring a lot of great information. I totally support you in your camp. And there's a few others like News Treason 17, Dave, and Rambo, and I totally love their content and what they're bringing. My issue is 3 years ago in 2021, I moved all my IRAs, 401ks into gold and silver. I followed Charlie Ward very closely. And he had his gold people were gold busters in the UK. Well, they use Goldco, and I know you're kind of a sponsor of Goldco. I know Dave is, News Treason, and I know Rambo is. My situation is bringing light to the situation, what happened. I listened to everybody. I moved all my stuff. I went to Goldco. I had my stuff in Goldco. Well, Goldco used preferred trusts in a traditional IRA. They use preferred trust. Well, Andy Schechtman comes on. I'm a big Mark Z fan. I follow Mark Z and Andy Schechtman. So I started asking questions about Goldco, trust companies, and this has been a big time learning experience for me. And I was a paramedic for 30 years, so I ask a lot of questions. So I moved all my stuff from preferred trust into New Direction to their traditional IRA. Goldco still, basically, I bought my metals from them, but they were in the Delaware Depository. Andy's not a fan of Delaware Depository, Goldco, but trust company, he supported New Direction. So I moved my stuff. So I just turned 59 and a half. So I go, I want to take possession of my metals, but my metals were showing a lot less than what I paid for them, like 27,000 less. And I questioned them, Goldco. I said, why is this? I said, that doesn't make sense. I spend 67,000 in metals, and metals have gone up the last 3 years. How is it going backwards? And they gave me some song and dance. But I've been doing my research. This is a shout out to Miles Franklin because they got me out of the mess. Kevin and Andy Schechtman. When I went to pull my metals, I was going to have Miles Franklin buy them or cash them out. I was going to cash out, get my metals, or they were going to buy my metals. I was going at risk to lose $40,000. They said, you're going to lose $40,000 if we buy your metals, buying it out of Delaware Depository. I go, you're freaking kidding me. Goldco is under investigation, I found out from more research. And trust companies won't even work with them. New Direction, I tried to cash out. I finally got Goldco to send me a buyback offer because that's where I started. Well, Goldco gave me a buyback offer, and they think I think they knew I was sniffing around because the way I was questioning them in my emails. And supposedly they're under investigation.
Hey, John, real quickly, because this is a show for Alpha Warrior, and
My
he was kind
point
of going over
is
some
I had
things
to
on his
shift
show
all my
last night.
stuff. I was gonna.
Well, hold
John,
on a
please don't
second.
interrupt the host, please.
Hold on a second. What I want to do is I want to I'll circle back to you because there are people that may have questions concerning Alpha's show last night
Okay,
or
that's
just
fair
other
enough. I'm just
questions.
trying to point
So
out light to the
let's
situation because they're preying on elder. There's a video. If you watch Mark Z show, there's a video on gold, how they're scamming elderly and people of their retirement money, and it needs
yes.
to be aware of.
Well,
No. I
here's
agree.
what I'll say to that. And one, John, I would say there's a time and a place, man. And I don't know what your intentions are, and I'll just assume that they were good.
They are
But when
good.
I've
I'm
been when
passionate about what I do.
okay, and so am I. And I don't put my name behind something that I haven't researched extensively. And every time somebody has brought in allegations to me against Goldco, I've gone and asked because my name's attached to it. And I can tell you,
Well, what they do, real quick, and I'll let you go on to questions. What they do, they upsell their
I
metals,
hold John,
and they
John,
Hang on a
John,
second,
John,
John.
this, listen, if you want to trash on Goldco, go create a space and trash on Goldco. But I'm telling you, if you think you're going to do it in front of me and not get pushed back, I'm going to remind the audience of what you said. Allegedly, they're under investigation. If you're going to say a company like Goldco is under investigation, bring the receipts. Because I'll tell you right now, the people that have actively tried to say it, and I've asked them, show me where they're under investigation, they haven't. Goldco will do a defamation lawsuit against you. They're not fucking around. Because I've reached out to my audience members, the ones that have been, you're not afraid to be, more transparent about what their contracts look like with me. And I said, hey, have you guys ever seen a contract like this? Because people say, I'll say, send me the contract. And so someone sent me one, and there was something about it I had an itchy feeling about. So I reached out to some people that I know did Goldco, and I said, hey, does this look like the contract you got? And of course, redacted private information. And they said, no, that doesn't look anything like mine. I'll show you what mine look like. And the people that I know that have gone to get their gold and make, whatever shifts that they have all reported back to me 100% of the time a positive experience. The ones that have gone through, through my link to Goldco, 100% have reported back a positive experience all the way through, even having to change it, even though they didn't want to. Every person that has tried, and there's been about five, you would be number six, either five or six, that has told me about this, has always been through, well, it was through someone else and it was through this or it was back then. So what I would say is if you want to trash on Goldco, you have the ability to do that, but go create a space and do it. If we're doing a podcast up here right now about what's going on, why would you choose that moment and opportunity to try to do something? That tells me either bad judgment or selfish intentions, both of which I'm not okay with. So, with that, Jenny, I'll give it back to you if you want to put us back on track. But I just wanted the audience to hear that because a lot of people want to do that. They want to come and they put all this information out there and then they follow it up with the words allegedly, which I get it. It's important. But when you're talking about a company, and you say you did it, there should be no allegedly. It should be like, hey, here's the lawsuit I'm a part of. Here's the case number and the dockets that I can show you. And anything absent of that, I think is very disingenuous and very unfair to the company itself.
Thank you. Okay, and back to were you talking on something specific? You wanted to. I talked a little bit about the midterms, and you guys were talking about Act Blue last night. Do you think we're going to get midterms?
I think we will. Obviously, there's a scenario where we won't, because we got to be prepared for every scenario. I think we will get to midterms. I just don't think that it's going to be the way we're used to seeing them. One of the conversations we had last night surrounding Act Blue is, and Sean Taylor, he's been reaching out to me the last few days. We text this morning. He exposed Act Blue several years ago before everybody else jumped on it, and I can tell you guys now, because well, I'll be careful how I say it because he gave me permission, but in a limited scope. Some of the investigations that are taking place are a direct result of information he's provided to the government. Um, but one of the things, and I'm hearing this from multiple people, I'm not saying that this is, I want to separate Sean from this statement now, because they may not be one and the same. People can interpret that how they want. Is some of the reasons you see rhinos not jumping on this bandwagon of exposing Act Blue is because Act Blue is also going to open the door to win red. And what you're going to see is that it's not just politicians on the left that were being bought off, but yeah, politicians on the right that were being bought off. So either you're going to see a complete structural change to both these entities, or you're probably going to see the annihilation of both these entities. However, what the one thing that is absolutely going to probably happen, I say with a high probability, is as we approach midterms, not only are we're going to see elections in probably the most honest way we've ever seen it, because you're not going to have the money, the laundered money behind these campaigns. You've had Republicans that have tried to run for seats, and the Republican GOP will go and finance these people out of it. And what you're going to see is the absence of that kind of money to do it. You're going to see authentic fundraising when it comes to these people trying to primary others, or however it looks. You're just going to finally see it with honest dollars. And with that, we're probably going to see a difference, because you're not going to see multi-million-dollar commercials for one side the entire week and on all these ads and all this. We're probably going to see, I anticipate we're going to see the closest we've ever been to organic campaigning. And so on top of that, you've seen one of the executive orders Trump signed in the first, I think it was 24, 48 hours, first couple of days, on holding people responsible for the election integrity issues we've had from past elections. So I also think we're going to see, I don't think Dominion is going to be a part of our midterms at all.
Thank, thank
I,
God.
I think
I agree with you.
I
Organic.
think we are going to see paper ballots, and maybe the introduction, and this comes off some scuttlebutt that I've heard. I don't have anything to support it other than it's been scuttlebutt, is that we're probably going to see in some places the testing either as a new system or as a volunteered type of system of maybe even crypto, like blockchain style technology into our elections. But like I said, that's all been completely scuttlebutt of what I'm hearing from conversations, but it is interesting, and I figured I would share that as well since you asked the question.
I've heard that too, Alpha, from many of the people that I speak to about the blockchain. I think the blockchain is going to be a big part of our very near future. So, all right, everybody, if you guys have a question for Alpha, can you hear me better? I'm not
You sound
echoing.
great.
That was so annoying, everybody. But anyway, please request a mic. I will unmute your mic, and then Sergeant, you have your hand up. Go ahead and ask Alpha your question.
I think Santino had his hand up first, didn't he?
You can go ahead first,
Oh,
and I'll
well,
call it right after you. Go ahead.
go ahead.
No, no,
No,
no.
Santino.
You
No,
know what?
I insist.
It's
I
interesting
insist.
because, yeah, thank you so much. I was listening to Alpha. The thing is, he's absolutely correct when it comes to social media. When you look back in time, I mean, people couldn't even afford the local paper, so you got your news word of mouth. Then you can afford the paper, you get the news there, and people couldn't afford cable, and then it just advanced till now. We are the news. We are the media. Things are changing, and they're changing rapidly for the better. I want you to circle back and then have a question. When you talk about honeypot, right? People were throwing out there that Jackie Kennedy was a honeypot, and as well as Marilyn Monroe. When you look at actresses and people in the the music industry, right? They always make a choice. Well, how can I get my following? How can I get to point A to point B? And they choose that. So I always believed Marilyn Monroe wanted to become an actress, right? But then where did the road take her? So I wanted to find out your thinking of, what do you think about Marilyn Monroe? Do you think she was a honeypot? She was quite intelligent. That was a role she was playing. She's quite smart, and she always had pictures like the picture of her with a flat Earth, and then her ties with the Kennedys and what have you and so forth. So I wanted your ideas on Jackie Kennedy and Marilyn Monroe. Were they honeypots?
Real quickly, Alpha, before you answer that, I forgot to ask you, how much time do you have today, my friend?
I can rock for another 30, 35 minutes.
You got it. Go for
And
it.
also one more thing, we do have to focus. We need to win the House and we need to win the Senate. We have to have full control over that. That's really, really important. We got to get rid of those rhinos. Go ahead, Alpha.
Yeah, 100%. I'll say this: if I'm ever gonna get honeypotted, please do it with like a Marilyn Monroe or something like that. You know,
Blondes have more fun.
here's the thing. There's a lot of um circumstantial information to make a very good argument that Marilyn Monroe was a honeypot. Absolutely. So I'm not going to say that she wasn't. I just I can't say definitively that she is. My opinion is when you, and it's been a couple years since I looked into this, but I do remember my mindset and the takeaway when I did this research. I don't think Marilyn Monroe started off as a honeypot. I think it started off as a legitimate affair. I think something in Marilyn Monroe's past was leveraged against her to then turn that active existing relationship into, what you could call a honeypot now. I think that is more how it happened. And like I said, that's just my takeaway based off of when I dove into it, how I kind of saw it.
And Jackie Kennedy?
I don't. I don't think that she was. He, I've heard some of the stuff people have presented, but the counters far outweigh that, and so I would say that one with strong confidence. I don't think that Jackie was.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Santino. All right, Sergeant, go ahead, and then Scorpio, go ahead. Go ahead, Sergeant.
Yeah, just real quick, I wanted to reiterate something that Alpha was saying. He was talking about the campaign contributions and stuff like that. And I've noticed this on my own, like text messages and stuff like that, is I'm getting more direct contact from candidates to contribute directly to their campaign because they're trying to avoid the whole win red or whatever scenario. So I'm encouraging people to bypass the middleman, go directly to the source, donate directly, and just get rid of all the BS in the middle. That's all I have to say. Scorpio, I'm sorry.
Well, to your point, real quickly, Scorpio, to your point, Sergeant, I do believe the whole middleman situation is going to be eliminated here in our very near future. So when Alpha talks about, a lot of things changing dramatically, our whole workforce, our world is going to be changing dramatically. So I think everybody needs to be prepared for that. Go ahead, Scorpio.
Hey, can you
If you
guys hear
will,
me?
real quick before we go, Scorpio, I want to respond to something in the DM because there's a chance that maybe other people share this opinion, and it unfortunately brings us back to Gold Code, but I want to address it. So I got a DM right now saying, Alpha, why'd you lie to us and say that Gold Code's not under investigation when I found a lawsuit against them? So I want to be very clear because one, I applaud you for going and vetting what I said. Everybody should do that. But two, there's a difference between saying a company is under investigation and a company is being sued. Completely two different things. When I went and, like I said, the last time I looked into this was early 2024, maybe mid 2024, is you had, I think I had found about 4 or 5 lawsuits against Goldco. And when I dove into those lawsuits and asked questions, because like I said, my name's attached to it, more than half of those had nothing to do with the whether Goldco was misleading. It had to do with like insurance policy issues and things like that. Nothing about nefarious. It was that. There was two that had to do. There was one and I won't remember where it was, and I want to say it was from 2022-ish around there, that had made the allegation that they were misled, but it was a lawsuit. It's not an investigation. And at the time that I looked at it, that was still active and open. And then there was another one that was from, I want to say, probably close to a decade ago, and that one was ended, and that was in Gold Coast's favor. So before you send me a DM and say, why am I lying to people? Recognize what you're looking at. There's a difference between saying a company is under investigation. And all of you have the capability of doing that to go see if the SAC, the FTC, the DOJ, anything that's investigating the company. You'll see there is no investigation like that. And that's why I said, if you're going to say a comment like that, provide the receipt. So I wanted to make sure there's a clear understanding there, Jenny, before we continued.
And
Thank you, Alpha.
just real quick, if I can comment on that. You know, allegations and lawsuits are one thing. If you have definitive proof, that's another thing. But this isn't a topic about Gold Coast. That's a whole different topic and a whole different space. And so quit interrupting about this Gold Coast crap and let us focus on what we're here to talk about. Am I wrong, Jenny?
You are 100% correct, and I thank you for saying that. And I don't see that gentleman here anymore. So,
But no, and
yeah. So,
and I agree with you completely on that, Sarge. But the reason I bring it up is because information warfare, and by no means am I saying John did this, but I still have to approach it like that until I get to know John or we have a private conversation. Is people have realized that they cannot attack me and my story because I've destroyed everybody that's tried because the truth is on my side. So what I have seen is people trying to use what my name's attached to destroy their reputation in order to discredit my work and my name in the process. And so that's why when these things are brought to me, and that's why I can speak on these things, is I actually look into it. I have not attached myself to anybody without looking into that company at all.
I
And
understand that, bro. I totally get you. You gotta defend yourself. I'm trying to defend you too. It's like you've said it enough. That guy was a jerk off. He was
Can I
one of the 10%ers. And
I
it's
want,
Scorpio's turn.
yeah, I don't want to say, especially since he's not here no more. I don't think it's fair to say he's a jerk off because who knows what his intention? Only he knows that. Like,
He's actually requesting now, Alpha.
so, well, then there you go. Um, but what I do want to say is people have to understand that these are the way a lot of these attacks are looking. And it brings us back to the exposure operations. People realize they couldn't attack Trump directly because every time you attack Trump directly, as a result of that, Trump gained more support. So what did they do is they started to attack around him in order to affect his ability to do his job. And so you see these things in real time from the highest of levels down to the lowest of levels where Alpha's at.
So I'm glad John came back. Here's the thing. It was an attack on Alpha, and I am going to come up here and try to defend him. So Gold's Co, right, is like a mutual fund. So you're buying shares in all of their gold. Depending on, you got to understand, it's different than taking your $60,000 and buying real gold from an exchange than buying shares in a company that owns gold. They have employees. They might have sold gold at a different time, but I don't think you can say like they're nefarious because when you try to pull out your gold at a specific price, you wanted to get the same price as gold. When you have a mutual fund, it's different. You own shares of the total gold that that company owns, and they have employees and things like that. So and again, I was thinking about buying into Gold Co. I didn't because they have shares and I bought the gold directly, but that's not Co's fault, right? This is your fault because you didn't weigh your options, right? Just like on Robinhood, they don't sell shares, they don't sell direct crypto. They're selling you shares of their crypto that they own. So yes, it's important to understand what you're investing in, But it doesn't mean that you invested in GoCo that your retirement fund wasn't going to go down anyway. Like your retirement fund could be investing in things that are going down, companies that are not making money. You can't blame your retirement fund. You actually have to be active about what to invest in. And I'll land it there because I did see that as an attack on Alpha. And, he's just a crayon eating Marine. I wouldn't trust him anyway.
Hey.
Thank you, Scorpio. Real quickly, everybody, appreciate that, Scorpio. Appreciate you coming up here defending Alpha. And of course, everybody, that's not the topic, but I understand where Scorpio is coming from and trying to address as well as Alpha. So I appreciate you guys doing that. But kind of to stay on topic, everybody, I know Rubber Duck, we're kind of just talking a little bit about Josh's podcast with Alpha last night. Just different things, the midterms, Klaus Schwab, the Pope. So if anybody has any questions regarding that, please feel free to request a mic. I will unmute your mic. I don't know where we left off on that, Alpha. I think we were talking about the honeypots with Jackie Kennedy and Marilyn Monroe.
Yes,
So,
and Marilyn Monroe.
so Santino, if you have your hand raised, go ahead. We're getting sidetracked.
Yeah, so I'm just going to bring it right back to home. So we're talking about Klaus Schwab. So I actually brought up to attention that right now, WEF has opened a probe into Klaus Schwab. It includes allegations that Klaus Schwab asked junior employees to withdraw thousands of dollars from ATM banks on his behalf and used for foreign funds to pay for private in-room massages in hotels. It also alleged that his wife, Hilda, former forum employee, scheduled token forum-funded meetings in order to justify luxury hotels for the organizing expenses, and that happened on the weekend. Also, there is another big thing that I found breaking. U.S. health officials Tuesday said that they would phase out petroleum-based artificial color. Sorry, that's the one. That's the wrong one. Wait a second here. Pardon me. That was another one that was actually pretty good, but this is the one right here. Sorry. HHS security, Robert F. Rhetoric, I can't even fucking read. Pardon my language.
RFK Jr.
I know, it's like I'm all out. HHS security Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is weighing pulling the COVID vaccine from the government list recommended immunizations for children. So that is a really big breaking news as well. I put my glasses on. Go ahead, love.
Thank you, Santino. See, everybody, these are the wins that I'm saying hang on to. So stay focused on the positive. So go ahead, Alpha, if you want to continue. I know you were speaking, so go ahead. The floor is yours, my friend. This is your show.
Sorry about that. I
Where'd you go?
had to run
No
back
more
to.
coffee, Alpha.
No,
This space is all over the place today. It's crazy.
I'm sitting here pounding on the thing, and it doesn't want to come off. No, I mean that's pretty much where I was on that topic. I mean, if people have specific questions, about the show last night and want to ask me, like we can go there.
Or if just in general, everybody, if you guys have a question, please feel free. Don't be nervous to ask. Raise your hand, request a mic. We'll unmute your mic, get you up here. And Rubber Duck, I did send you an invite for a mic. If you want to be a speaker, please, I'll send it to you again. But yeah, Patriot Storm, I see you're in the house. What's up, my friend? How come you're so quiet? That's unusual. All right, everybody. So Santino, you want to say anything? Alpha, anybody?
You know what? When we're looking
go.
at the news, I mean, we have had quite a very busy Easter. When you look up the Pope and what's happening, people have their thoughts and where he's at, what's happening. Was it him? I mean, the list goes on and on. But when we talk about all the breaking wins, we are winning every day. Things are going in the right direction. I want to really echo that. I mean, we have the second-ranked Senator Democrat. He says he's retiring after the term. He's 80 years old. Yeah, but it's about time he retires at 80. So that's another win. When you look at all the news that's coming out, we're going in the right direction. We got to stay positive in this. We have to look, like, you're absolutely correct, Jenny, when you speak about that. Don't get sucked into those spaces or those posts or those attacks when people are bringing you down there, and trying to steer you away from the truth and the positive of where we are as a country. I mean, that's the whole object of why they're doing the whole object of their exercise. So at the end of the day, I think that we need to really understand where we're going, stay positive, stay in good spaces, circle yourself around positive positive patriots, people who want to stay positive. Who the hell needs negative? Of course, we need some kind of, drama here and there, just to spice things up. But enough's enough. Move forward and talk about things that matter, like the children, like the trafficking, like Mexico, like the things that are important, like Colombia, Cuban, those MS whatever 1513s. These are the things we should talk about, that we're actually moving, not just about the histrionics. Yes, they're important, but talk about what are they doing to rectify it. Are they moving forward? Are they making the right choices? That's where we're at. So stay positive, guys. I think we're doing fantastic. What a great time to be alive.
Amen. And you know what? Everybody focusing on the noise, they're missing that great time to be alive. You talk about Santino, about the children and everything. We've got the Democrats. I can't remember who it was. They're more concerned about focusing and helping MS-13 than they are getting the children taken care of. So that should tell you everything you need to know, everybody. So I did see a couple hands. Sunshine, where'd you go? You had your hand up, and then Sergeant, you can go ahead
One
after
quick
that.
thing, Jenny, and the reason why is because they need the votes. They want to keep them there. That's
Yep.
they don't care. They care about themselves and keep themselves in the Senate. That's why they keep the illegal immigrants. That's why they're doing all this stuff. That's why they're continuing the trafficking of the drugs and the children and the organs and you name it. There's only one. They want to stay there, and that's the only way they can do, with the votes.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Sunshine.
Yeah, no, does everybody that wasn't here earlier realize like this the importance of this Klaus Schwab investigation? I mean, this was like another operation going on like an Epstein deal. He wasn't the one getting the massages, he was videotaping and collecting data to use on people later. I mean, no different than Epstein or these other, sex scandal honeypots that they were trying to get.
Well, and don't forget that, on top of that, Sunshine, because one of the most frustrating things to hear right now is people are saying nothing's going on, right? And then you see what you just articulated, Sunshine. And then what about freaking Comer referring um Como Andrew to Trump's DOJ for prosecution of the way he handled the COVID thing? Do you not know how major that is? Because if you
It's about
yeah,
time.
because let's just put this into a reasonable understanding of what this means. Do you think Andrew Cuomo, because if it turns out the way we all know it's going to turn out, which is these nursing home disasters for profit and knowledge, it's going to end up being like second degree or third degree, homicide is ultimately what that's going to turn out to be. Do you think Como is going to literally just be like, yeah, you know, if I'm found guilty, because obviously he's not going to, plead guilty unless he gets a really great deal, which I think will happen. But let's just assume he goes the distance and fights this all the way through court. You don't think he's not telling the DOJ right now? Because here's the thing: the phone calls have been made, you guys. Just with my understanding of how these things work, attorneys have contacted attorneys saying, "Hey, look, um we will start snitching on every single person that made this happen. How does my client stay out of custody, and maybe they come to a deal where he's out of custody and you take down the house of cards out there in New York, or maybe it comes down to something where he just gets a reduced sentence. But I guarantee you that Andrew Cuomo's attorneys are in communications with the DOJ, and he is going to bring down a massive amount of people. So, and the same thing with, like you were saying, Sunshine, with Klaus Schwab and these others. So when people tell you, nothing's happening, there's a there's a landslide of shit happening right now, and this includes some of my friends, and I don't mind saying it. And just like a lot of people are now saying, you know the MS-13 and these cartel arrests, that's so insignificant. We want the big arrests. First of all, that is an asinine comment. If you understand the way the cabal works, do you think Hillary Clinton's the one that's out there at the border picking up the kid that she wants to use for her quote unquote sacrifice? No. It's brought to these people. And so what you're seeing is the systematic takedown of the worker bees, the foot soldiers. And that's how you get these people to make even more compromising moves that are going to turn into evidence. Because whether we like it or not, yes, the cover up catches them, but at the same time, it catches them because it exposes them. It doesn't always necessarily mean that that evidence still exists. And we know they did the best to cover their tracks. So, but through the cover up and through taking down their worker bees, you make them do new crimes that you're absolutely monitoring, that the evidence is not going to get destroyed or compromised. And so just understand that when these cartels are being taken down, not only is it absolutely important because it's going to impact human trafficking and child trafficking, but it's also important because these are the foot soldiers of the evil of evil. So when you guys see people out there trying to, black pill you in in that aspect, 100% do not let. There is a landslide, there's an avalanche of stuff that is happening in our country right now, is which reminds me of something that Josh talked on last night that I was not aware of. I love talking to that man. We all know about the three DoD officials that were removed and had their security clearances pulled. What Josh brought to my attention last night was the man that let these guys go. One, it's now being confirmed that a proper investigation wasn't done. So you're saying these guys leaked information, but none of the electronics or anything like that stuff was looked into, and that comes from one of the people that went and did an interview on media, saying, "Hey, this wasn't even done." But the most important part is the guy. I want to say his name was Carrillo. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, going off memory here. Um, the one that let these guys go, the one that works under Pete Hegseth, he's now been removed from his position, pretty much put in an office where he's going to monitor staplers and pencil sharpeners, and they're going to and they're yes, and they're investigating how these guys were released. So it doesn't change the position we had as we explain these stories because it's still the same thing. It shows that there's an active investigation internally to what's going on in these agencies. Just like, what was it, 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago, the FBI arrested one of their agents. Now, this guy was arrested and indicted because he was caught with 133 classified documents as he was boarding an international flight. So he was going to take classified information to a foreign country. So when people are telling you things aren't happening and, oh, they're just sitting there or they just want to exploit, oh, Dan Bongino got hurt on the mat. A, we asked for this. We said we want an administration that tells us everything. So why the world would we be bitching about an administration that has given us what we asked for? We said we want to know everything from the insignificant coffee table talk to the most high level conversations when they can be disclosed without compromising investigation. So A, we asked for this. B, if they're cleaning house internally, that means they have a working knowledge that they don't have complete operational security, which means the arrest that you're calling for cannot be facilitated until you have complete 100% operational security. So they're showing you in real time that they're making those steps. Then you have Bongino and Cash both come out and say, listen, peeps, just because you see things aren't happening doesn't mean things aren't happening. And then people want to exploit that. Oh, yeah, you're trying to buy time. Maybe, but you now have evidence of people being dismissed, people being investigated, and people being arrested. So obviously, there's tangible evidence to the statements that these men are making.
Exactly. And I was just going to say, just going to say that just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. I think what everybody needs to understand too is there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, and a lot of these arrests have already been made. Just because we haven't seen it doesn't mean we're not going to see it. But the people that I've been speaking to, a lot of these people have already been apprehended, but we haven't seen it yet. But I think too, three of the biggest arrests that we've seen to the forefront are Epstein, Diddy, and then what's the other one? Ghislaine Maxwell. Oh, and then Weinstein, right? And we find out Weinstein is behind bars still controlling shit over there in Hollywood. So everybody, things are happening. You just have to have faith. It'll come out in due time. When they say enjoy the show, we're watching a movie. We literally are watching the biggest production in human history. So hang in there, buddy. I know patience. People don't like to hear that, but in the reality, we didn't get this way overnight. We sure as hell are not going to untangle it overnight. So I have a few questions. I know Alpha's on a time dealio. Rubduck, I saw your hand up. Do you have a question? I saw Woody's.
Greetings.
Sergeant.
Hola.
Go ahead. What's up, Rubber Duck?
What's up, guys? What's up, Alpha? Santino. I wanted to help put a little bit of what Alpha just said, which he stated brilliantly, because it's true. Put things in perspective a little bit, big picture. These, just because Trump is back in office for, I don't know, 100 and something days or however long it's been, you have to first remember just how big this is. And you also have to remember that the child trafficking was a global ring represented by a global triangle, if you will, a triad. And that triad was a power structure, and the triangle had three sides. And the Rothschild banking family represented one side of that structure. Saudi Arabia represented another side of that power structure of the triangle. And then they say the Queen, the monarchy, Soros, numerous others comprise the third. After Trump first came in to office in 2017, from 2017 through his first term, we have to remember who's not in the picture anymore. And the first group that was taken out was the Rothschild family. So the Rothschild and the members of the Rothschild family today that are no longer with us, and these are the four heads of the banking part of the family, arguably the most powerful people on earth that were behind the scenes. And that was William Rothschild. He died in 2015, November, after Trump came down the escalator. Benjamin Rothschild died January 15th, 2021. Evelyn Rothschild died November 7th of 22, and we just lost Jacob Rothschild in 2024, in February. So that and there was another dude that burned in a house. Some people say he was a Rothschild, some say he wasn't, so I didn't even include it. Number two, Prince Philip was toast. April of 2021, Queen Elizabeth went after him in 2022. We now have a king with cancer, and I don't make predictions, but I believe he'll be next. The next big name to pass away or whatever. And then don't forget the popes. Pope Benedict, left us in 2022. He retired though before he was forced out emeritus before Trump came in, and of course we recently lost Francis. I don't think we'll see another pope. That's just my opinion. Now, of all the G20 countries, all right, there's only a couple of leaders that have been in power continuously since November 2016. Number one, Vladimir Putin. Okay, and don't forget, in 2020, Vladimir Putin purged his entire cabinet. The whole entire upper part of the Russian government was wiped out in a day, and that happened in 2020. Xi Jinping, okay, he's been in power, and we all know that he and Trump have, quote unquote, exceptional relationship, which means that they're working together. Erdogan from Turkey, he's a player. His name will be back in the news, okay, and I personally think for good reasons, because Turkey is a big player here. Don't forget about Modi, also in India, and also don't forget, most importantly, Mohammed bin Salman. And don't forget that Saudi Arabia in 2017, they purged their entire government, and all of the princes, including Alawid, was arrested. Those that were responsible for the the failed assassination attempt on bin Salman in 2017 in Las Vegas. So you had, two major governments that were purged, and we have between 4 to 5 leaders that we know already have been working with Trump in some way. All right, because remember, each of these major players around the world, globally speaking, they had their own deep states as well. The U.S. needed to be the first domino so that the world would have enough confidence to believe, I'm talking about the masses, that, these deep states in this day and age can be taken on. If we could do it, anybody could do it, especially with Trump in power. So I just wanted to add a little background color to Alpha. not only are there things happening behind the scenes that I'm sure everybody could feel, but you just can't put your finger on it, but there is a lot that has happened already. If you were to make a list to yourself of all of the people that have died, all of the people that have resigned, all of the people that have just totally disappeared, you yourself would say, holy shit, we must be watching a movie. So that's why I tell everybody this whole thing is going to have a similar arc in terms of time frame as like one of your favorite sitcoms or a dramatic TV series. It's going to be like 8 to 10, 12 years total, before we see most of what we were expecting in 2017 through 2019. That's my opinion. And I think it's starting now. It already has.
Thank you, Rubber Duck. Always love your input. Thank you so much.
Well,
All right.
just to
Go
add
ahead, Alpha.
numbers, to this conversation as well, because once again, one of the strong talking points is, nothing's happening. It's why we have to be so relentless as we push back against that. And I'm sure this number has gone up, but um, in the first 50 days of Trump's presidency, he's now at, I believe today's 92 or 93. And something just tells me on day 98, there's probably gonna be something significant that
This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.
happens that day, because 9 plus 8 is 17. And that should be in the next 5 or 6 days, depending if today's day 92 or 93. So
We have Trader Girl. She could verify that.
100%. But just in the first 50 days of Trump's administration, just so people understand, you had over 32,000 arrests that were made by ICE. Now, people are saying, yeah, Alpha, but millions of people came through. Yeah, millions of people came through, but their priority is certain people. And what did that 32,000 lead to? Over 220 arrests of people that were known terrorists. You guys, over 200 arrests of known terrorists. And part of that is because this administration's been so aggressive, and you've seen the mainstream media try to attack it. Hasn't really, if you're watching just alternative media hasn't really covered this, and that's been something I've found interesting. But mainstream media has. A lot of these arrests is because Trump's ICE administration, or the Homan and these guys, they've actually been going and hitting what's considered sensitive locations, schools, places of worship, hospitals, things that kind of shock the conscience of like, oh, like don't do that. But because they've done that, you have over 200 arrests of suspected terrorists, people that are in this country for one reason alone. So when people tell you, oh, these low level things don't matter, they absolutely do, because these are the guys that are, you know, so to speak, carrying the explosives. So what you're doing is, yeah, the deep state might be holding the trigger, but when you have control of the device, you take away their power. And I just wanted to hammer down. And if you go look at the Securities Exchange Commission, in the first, I think it was like 30 or 40 days, they had it was like, I think, 100 or 200 actions that they've taken. So there's an active effort to address the sludge that is in our institutions, and I just wanted to put that out there, because so many people are being told nothing's happening, and that could not be further from the truth.
Amen. Amen. All right, everybody. How you doing on time, Alpha?
I'm good, so
Okay.
we can get, I'll tell you what, I'll give you a 15-minute warning when I got to hit the eject button.
Okay. All right. I was gonna say, you want to go until 1?
Yeah, let's rock it, we can do that.
Okay.
Well,
Okay. Cool.
he's
All
got
right.
backup now. He's got backup.
All right. So I saw a few hands. So Woody, your hand was up. Go ahead and ask Alpha your question.
I really didn't have a question. I didn't know we were going to go into Q&A, but I just wanted to say hi.
Or a statement, whatever.
Yes. Okay. So I posted up in the net, or in the Blue Pill, about John Rich, and he's got a post. He's supposed to, I don't want to take anybody away from our groups and stuff, but this is something to pay attention to. John Rich tonight at 7 Central Standard Time is going to have a channel on live with a special agent from the Department of Homeland Security government to discuss cyber child predators and how to guard your kids from their attacks. It's critical information. It may be great, it may not be. I don't know. I didn't put any effort into looking in the back channel to it, but John Rich and Christy Noem are really, really close friends, and they've been working on the in the Department of Homeland Security as far as child trafficking and child predators on the internet. So, just a heads up on that. And I just wanted to say I love you guys, Santino, Alpha, Jen, Scorpio, Sergeant. I don't see her. Carmen, Michelle, blah blah blah, TK, all you guys, Sally. That's all I wanted to do. Anyway,
What am I, a mirage?
wait. Hold on. Who said that?
Rubber duck.
Yeah,
Rubber duck.
yeah. I'm supposed to kill two birds with one stone, right? You know. No, I love you, Ducky, and it's good to see you guys. So I love you. Oh, well,
Thank you,
wait.
Woody.
One more thing. Again, I don't want to pull people away from uh, the whole networking of trying to give people information. But it is the start of summer. Get out, get some sunlight. Treat yourself to a little bit of healthiness, man. Go out, go on the water, go fishing with your kids. Spend some time with your family and friends, man, especially on here. Go on live. Go out to the water, man. Throw your fishing pole in and do a live chapter on on the lake or something. Let's get creative with this. Also, if you're poem writers, man, there's artists that are looking for people to write good stuff for them. So put it out there, man. This is where we got the opportunity. This is the golden age, right? This is the golden era. The United States has always been about innovations. So let's help our people out. The people that are up there, let's help them out. Give them some poems, give them some songs. I did a couple. I get drunk and get stupid and I start singing and stuff. But yeah, man, let's help them out. We got Pure Flicks for Christians. They also got that thing that Donald Trump just did with the anti religious groups. Act or something like that. I've been fishing, but anyway. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you,
I'll shut
Woody.
up. Bye.
Thank you. All right. So, I think,
You guys,
go
you
ahead,
want my
Alvin.
take on why they did this anti-Christian move? I think this was 100% to combat a certain strategic attack on this platform from voices that have been saying the Trump administration is only defending the juice, the juice, the juice, the juice, right? I think everybody gets what I'm saying there. I think this was Trump saying, "Oh yeah, here, let's create one now that defends Christians and see how that argument works." So now every time they say Trump's only defending this particular group of people get to say, well, no, he's not, because he's also defending this group of people. And again, exposure operations. These people never saw that. None of us, let's just be honest, none of us saw the administration coming forward with an anti-Christian task force committee. So the only logical explanation there was this was to pull the momentum that group thought they had with that particular talking point. Again, this man is the chess master. And real quick, just to add some more numbers. And two, if you guys are not aware, Rubber Duck has some badass hats that are out there. I'm hoping here sooner than later I get to be wearing one of those on my podcast. You guys, when we have people on these platforms that create something, show your support. You know what I mean? Buy it for yourself. Let these people know that all the hard work that goes into what they're doing is recognized. And I think it's very cool to do that. But here's some numbers just to show that there are significant things happening. These are just, and this is not all of them. I just want to highlight some significant CEO or like high leadership people that have either resignated, fired, or have controversies surrounding them stepping down. Um, and I'll probably butcher some of these names. Yeah, Pat Gelsinger from Intel, he resigned. You have Rodney McMullen from Kroger, stepped down after an internal probe. You have Stephen Gardner from Amtrak resigned. You have Satish Malhotra from the Container Store that's left the company. You have Jeremy Boring from Daily Wire. You guys have seen the controversy around that. That stepped down. You have Haynes Schumacher from Unilever announcing their departure. You have Bharat Mansrani from TD Bank Group that retired. In the federal government, you have over 275,000 federal civil service layoffs that have been announced. More than 55,000 confirmed firings, 76,000 buyouts. These are the ones, like we saw the offers made to the CIA. You're already paid through because of the fiscal calendar here. So you can resign and keep that, or you can run the gauntlet and end up losing any money. So you have 76,000 people from there that have taken the buyouts. You have David Liebrick, the Treasury Department. That retired. You have a couple of people from the Justice Department: Daniel Sassoon, Hagan Scotton, John Keller, Kevin Driscoll. All these people resigned because they didn't agree with the directives Trump gave the DOJ. You have Denise Chong, one of the U.S. Attorney's Office, who works out of the D.C. office, that resigned because she didn't want to open a grand jury investigation because she said it was unsupported by evidence, which means she didn't want to investigate her people. So when people are telling you things aren't happening, absolutely things are happening, and these are not small numbers, you guys. These are and don't forget um, the exposure and taking down of the money laundering known as USAID, the exposure and taking down of the money laundering known as the National Endowment Fund, the NED. Just so you guys know, and this is something me and Josh talked about last night too, is those are the hubs to this stuff. So what can we say by what I just said? What does that translate into? Trump is taking the wallet of the deep state away
Yep.
by going after USAID, the NED. He's in, and then on top of that, he's taking away the worker bees by going after MS-13 and these cartels. So he's literally stealing their wallet, destroying their soldiers, and people want to tell you nothing's happening.
They have no.
100%, 100% things are happening.
Yeah, for sure.
Wait till they get to the Clinton Foundation.
And they have no more. They have no more funds, everybody. So they're taken away by this USAID. Also, you forgot the head guy from CBS is stepping down. So that's huge. All right, let's get through some of these hands. We've got. Let's see. Scorpio, Trader Girl, you had your hand up. I know Sergeant, you have your hand up, and Scorpio. So go ahead, Trader Girl, then Scorpio, and then Sergeant. Go ahead.
Yeah, just you guys have covered so many topics, but going back to what Alpha was saying about the Pope. So the Pope is super interesting. If you look at last week, April 17th was 4,500 days from the end of the world prophecy. And then literally 4 days later, you have the Pope's death. The Pope's death following Easter Sunday, Easter being the resurrection of Christ. And then you have the devil die the next day, right? Pope Francis, he's the head of the snake, but he's also the head of the mafia. So the fact that everybody kisses the ring, right? You kiss the ring, the Godfather died, right? So with Pope Francis dying, exactly afterwards, what do you have? You have Klaus Schwab stepping down, and then you have Andrew Cuomo, like Alpha was talking about. So what are they doing? They're dismantling the mafia on a public level. Everybody's now witnessing it after the fall of the New World Order last week. So it's all happening. I think we're going to start to see only better things. And it's interesting because if you look at the Pope being 88 years old, right, 88 miles per hour, that's where we're going, 88, 10 days of darkness, Q-Post 88. So if you look at that, the day, it was Queen Elizabeth's birthday. And it was also the day that Prince died. So purple rain. And we got purple rain that day when Pope died. So I think it's only going to get better from here. If you look, they put in Peter Barbrak, I'm probably saying that wrong, as the new chairman of the WEF, the World Economic Forum. And if you look at him, he looks like a robot. And he was the CEO of Nestle. Nestle means deer antler. And deer antler velvet is the closest thing to adrenochrome out there. From animals' blood, from deers. So they're basically putting robots and adrenochrome on the public forum for everybody to see right now. And it's 40 years since Terminator was released, and they say it happened 40 years in the future. So I don't think it's a coincidence that the image that they're using of him, he literally looks like a robot, when we know that most of these people that we're watching right now have already been taken out privately. We're watching a lot of masks, a lot of robots, a lot of makeup and stuff in the process as we wait for the public dismantle of information. So interesting times for sure.
Thank you, Trader Trader Girl. And if you guys do some research and deep dive on Nestle, you'll find some very, 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 very nefarious shit going on behind that company. So
I want to quickly say something about Nestle. You know, Harper in Canada gave 100% access to water in Canada, and someone told me a long time ago, and I won't say who, that there's a reason why that chocolate is so addictive. And what Trader Girl says ties into what I was saying. So, and actually, Carl Schwab is 88 years old, so he's stepping down at 88 years old.
yep.
Oh,
All right.
and also, just real quick. So, 17 months ago was the Rainbow Bridge explosion. 17 equals Q, the Rainbow Bridge, XRP. A lot of other things behind the Rainbow Bridge as well. But Queen Elizabeth died exactly 17 months from Prince Philip. So the numbers are there for the numerology. So I think it's only going to get better from here. We're going to see a lot of big things start to happen.
Thank you, Trader Girl. All right, go ahead, Scorpio.
Thank you. All right. So I just want to say this about Andrew Cuomo. New Yorkers want all the smoke as far as him. So there's a lot
Can
of,
anyone hear? Can anyone
oh
hear? Or?
gosh.
Yeah, we can hear. I can hear it.
All right. I'm just kidding.
You little
Just for,
shit. Go
you
ahead,
know what?
Scorpio.
I'm not gonna even buy your rubber duck hat now. Um,
He sells one piece suits now too.
Here now.
um, Man, so number one, okay, Trump had put funding to have the Jacob Javits Center turned into a hospital. I believe there was like 5,000 available beds along with the ship with beds. And Cuomo said he wasn't going to use anything Donald Trump gave New York. So he forced sick COVID patients to be taken into all of the nursing homes. So he did murder everyone that died from those sick patients, number one. Number two, he didn't allow anybody to go in those nursing homes to see their elderly parents or grandparents. Number three, he was the one that banned ivermectin and hydrochloroquine in New York after doctors were prescribing that. Number four, he was lying every day about the number of people that were dying of COVID that already came out. We shut down, us Trump supporters in New York, we shut down the Tappan Zee Bridge, which has been renamed after his father, because we wanted Cuomo to be fired. And he stepped down over a sexual harassment charge, which basically so he could step down gracefully. And when he did it, he said, "I'm Italian. That's why I flirted with that girl." So all not only do New Yorkers hate him, all Italians hate him because he was trying to blame the reason why he sexually harassed that girl is because he's Italian and that's the way they talk. The fifth thing he did was during the BLM riots, he told the NYPD to step down so they couldn't even defend New Yorkers during the riots during COVID, right? When we're all supposed to be locked down. So yeah, I want to see him along with every other New Yorker go to prison for murder. Oh, the last thing. Um, during Ghislaine's trial, right? They allowed us to hear the audio publicly. So I was listening to it. And then they brought up Andrew Cuomo's name. And then a lawyer came up and said, I request that the public feed be taken off. And they basically cut the public feed of the hearing. So, in my opinion, he's involved somehow with Epstein and Ghislaine, because why would they remove the public from hearing the trial once his name was mentioned? So, yeah, we have all the smoke with Andrew Cuomo, and he does need to get in trouble because it was him that forced all these nursing homes to take in these sick patients and basically everything regarding COVID and the lockdowns.
Thank you, Scorpio. All right, Sergeant Alpha, did you want to respond to that at all or no? All right, Sergeant, go ahead. Oh,
I just wanted to add. I just want to add really quickly to what Scorpio was saying. Also, when he was talking at that time about the COVID, when we were in the mix, he was on television, and we could clearly see through his dress shirt that he had bars going through his nipples. I bring this up all the time because in the film industry, what we do is we get bandages to cover them up. That is called exposure, the type of shit that that guy was into. And no one talked about it. Everybody just said, I can see it, but I don't want to discuss it. We need to talk about the perversions that these people do behind the bars, going back to Ghislaine Maxwell. So this coincides. These weren't even tiny ones. These are like the size of 10 pounders in the nipples. All you have to do is through two, Johnson & Johnson, baby, since he's so Johnson & Johnson vaccinated, why don't you just get 2 friggin' Band-Aids and cover them up so we don't have to watch this shit?
Those weren't nips. Those were fucking binkies.
I can hang those rubber duck hats on them.
Like, blah, 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 blah.
All right, go ahead, Sergeant. Go ahead, Sergeant. And then Southern Belle, you can go.
I'm gonna let Southern Belle go first because she hasn't spoken yet, and then I'll go after her.
Okay, go ahead, Southern Belle.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, y'all. Yeah, I just wanted to add some stuff that Alpha was talking about. Looking at Europe, I watched and listened very closely to J.D. Vance when he spoke in front of a lot of the leaders when he was in Europe, and made it very clear about the loss of free speech, et cetera, et cetera. And after the speech, nobody really wanted to talk to him, but one of his people with him said, who cares? Most of these won't be here in 2 years, which we now see will be happening. Keir Starmer and Macron are in big trouble in their country. I don't know how they're going to turn this around. They are so in debt as a country. All these European countries, they all owe each other a ton of money. They're a domino away from all of them collapsing. We worked on a global level to help out with PPE during COVID. And when we started looking at how they were trying to finance things, it was bizarre. It was bizarre. And that's when we got the true story of their financial picture. But the good news is those two, with what Trump is doing with tariffs, he's made it clear to Starmer he's got to clean up these laws, losing free speech, and all the stuff that's going on in their country. So there's some danglers attached to tariffs there, which should be really interesting. But
Starmer went to the island too. He's in the spotlight for a reason too.
Yep, he did. Also, too, with Italy, we're in great shape with her. She's amazing. Marine Le Pen in France will be a massive contender moving forward because the people have made it very clear they want her. So that's great because we got to get Macron out. Germany, he may not have a long shelf life, and he's ex-chairman of Germany for World Economic Forum. Klaus Schwab has been pressured to step down again for the second time. This time he's been forced to step down, but he's also married to a Rothschild. So the World Economic Forum we've already made it clear we're not giving them any money, which is phenomenal. WHO, we did not send them $52 million and basically told them to go away. I'm in medical. I see behind World Health Organization, and it's basically Bill Gates and China. And that's a big problem. They're a massive, massive bad actor, and they are puppets. And they're so corrupt, it's not fixable. I've talked to so many people, there's no way we can fix them. And so with them out of it, those treaties that Boston and all these crazy Democrats signed are now null and void because the country had to sign for it. That's the only thing Kevin McCarthy did well before he was booted out of the House. We have some Dick Durbin. I don't know if y'all saw that. He's not going to run for re-election. He says he's going to retire. And there's 4 others that are retiring as well in the Senate. All Democrats, 1 Republican, which is Mitch McConnell. So we're starting to see changes of old guard leaving. We're starting to see people that really don't want to be in the spotlight, because the other 3, I had to look up and see what state they're from, because I don't think I've ever heard them speak before. They're not running. In the House, all the Republicans that are leaving, they're all running for governor. So that's 4 running for governor that are Republicans, like Byron Donalds for Florida. But what's going to be interesting is normally they do not announce, especially in the Senate, that they're retiring because they want to control the media until the back end has identified a candidate and moving forward. So this is going to be interesting to see. But as far as the World Economic Forum, I think they're kind of on their way out. They've been basically a marketing arm for the global rich that think they're politically smart and have an agenda. So I think this less baby problem is real. And Italy, Japan are in big trouble, needing to have more babies. China tries to hide it with the one baby. Now they can have more children. Well, guess what? Conveniently during COVID, their elder population died off, and they're not very good to their elder population for resources, unfortunately. They don't live in nice nursing homes and things. It's very sad. One of my good friends tried to get some work done in China with the elderly, and she said it's just god awful. There, you would think there's this respect for the elders. No, China doesn't care about their people unless you're part of the elders or running the government. You're there at their benefit. But the bottom line is China cannot keep up with manufacturing demands that come forward because they're not going to have enough people. So Trump knows doing these tariffs and just pissing off China, it's allowing these other companies to go, oh, hell, he's serious. This is why he's doing these super large tariffs. He wants to drag this out, but not destroy the stock market. But it's also allowing for other companies going, wow, we got to be in America. So I understand that strategy. He came out kind of soft pedal a little on China, and the markets blew up again. So people are making a lot of money in this turmoil. But his bottom line is we cannot be dependent on China. What we had to go through to get medications out of China, because they own the raw materials and making the drug. We had issue getting drugs into the US, and we had to fight and do all kinds of silly, stupid stuff to get it done. We can never be in that position again because transplant patients couldn't get their medication for anti-rejection on their organ transplant. This is not an option. We even ran out of chemo in certain areas. And that is basically very generic. We had a lot of issues in medical that we were getting other countries involved, helping them to get their raw materials, open factories and retool as quickly as possible. Fortunately, Malaysia really stepped up. They made a bloody fortune, but they saved so many countries in what they did. Even Turkey stepped up, and they have a free zone. So allowed us to get in and out, in and out. But what we found is how poorly the manufacturing structure and raw material management is really. But the good news is we can bring this manufacturing inside the US. We may pay a little bit more for it, but here's the reality. We lose the cost of moving goods, and we lose the cost of moving raw materials if they're in the US to procure. If so, we can revitalize a lot of these towns. I'm in the Southeast. Our entire textile industry went to China. Thank you, Joe Biden. These towns still exist. The factories are still there. So they're going to be able to get in and move. And North Carolina has the biggest power grid in the country. And there's a lot of people that know that now. We have some huge opportunities to bring jobs back, and I'll land there. I had more, but I'll land there.
Thank you, Southern Beth. Thank you.
One more thing. Talking about USAID, they funded out to some god awful people, and that what they do is they fund over to another NGO. That NGO takes a piece off the top. They fund it over to another one. They take a piece off the top. And sometimes it's in 5 different NGOs before it gets to a usage. But legally, they only have to have 10% that they have to spend on whatever the human need was. Under NED, funding went through NED out to OCCRP. They're a global media company that operates in Europe. Their job was in tangent with the CIA to do the media while they were trying to do the stress tension for regime change or Gladio operation. But they used OCCRP to go after Trump. Our tax dollars were utilized to go after Trump. And the stories that are coming up is pretty incredible how our money has been used against us for so
Our
long.
tax dollars has gone even to the child trafficking and the organ harvesting of humans and children. So let that sink in,
You are
everybody.
100%
Yep.
correct. That's why George Soros was freaking out. When George
Hold it,
Soros moves money, he was moving.
Southern Bell, real quickly. I got to get to some of these other hands because I know Alpha's on a time constraint. So go ahead and finish your last comment, and then I'm going to go to these other hands.
I'm just saying, yes, with child trafficking, all of it, we were paying for it. George Soros moving monies around, he wasn't moving his money around. He was moving our money around and making money off our money.
Yep.
That's George Soros.
Thank you, Southern Bell. All right, let's see. Who do we have? We had Sergeant. Go ahead, Sergeant. Your hand is up. Then go. Then Michelle, you can go ahead and go. And then Max 1776. Go ahead.
I'm gonna let Michelle go first. She's a ex-space community moderator and stuff like that. I ain't pissing one of them off, so she can go first.
Okay. Okay.
That was really sweet, Sergeant. I'll be super fast. Hi, beautiful Jenny.
Hello.
I think I told you the other day somebody thought your profile picture was me because I have a picture in the same hat with the same hair. It is kind of a funny. I'm an older version of you, but we do have a similar profile pic. Hi, sweet Alpha, and boy, Santino's just precious, isn't he? I've enjoyed listening to him the last few weeks, and he is a really sweet, cool dude. Trader Girl, I was going to give you a number to add to your interesting facts. I visited Rome a few years ago and I made friends with a couple of people. I've stayed in touch. Long story short, I had heard the Pope died a year or two ago. And my friend messaged me and said, "No, Michelle, I told you when the Pope's going to die." And I said, "Yeah, but I kind of forget what you told me." And she said, "The birthday of Rome is April 21st. The year that Easter, the most Christian celebration, falls on the 21st will be the day he dies." And so when he passed, I literally just flipped out and I called her and I'm like, "Holy cow, like it was Monday. It was close, Easter Monday, as close as you could get. But I mean, this was told to me a few years ago." And she said, the biggest concern she had with that is supposedly the fall of Rome happens after that. I guess the seven mounds fall according to her belief. And so she said, "I don't know if it'll be an earthquake or what it'll be." She said, "But we always are nervous if he ever passes on our birthday celebration on the 21st or Easter, we're going to all kind of freak out." So, and then lastly, I don't mean to offend any Catholics, but something she pointed out to me yesterday that was quite interesting is as a Catholic, they work very hard. Whether it's the rosary, whether it's, several Bible studies a week, going to make confession, like they work their little asses off, right? And she sent the video. So if any of you need it, there is a video of the Pope saying all religions lead to Rome. And she said, "Can you imagine being a Catholic, like how much that would just hurt your feelings thinking we've been doing all this and, a Hindu who doesn't do half of these things could go?" It's just so offensive to her. And so she felt like this would be the Pope that would die on April 21st. Lastly, I promise, I visited, I think Alpha knows, Jenny, you may know, I was in October 6th of the October 7th terrorist attack. I was in Israel and I left Jerusalem actually on October 6th. And I've kept close with, again, a couple of tourist guides. And I talked to them last week. And one of them told me that they have not had, other than Palm Sunday, or Palm Friday, I guess, Friday and Sunday. I think she said both days were pretty busy because Christians from Palestine, Israel, every area, even Jordan, come to celebrate. She said, other than that, she owns a store. They've not had one tourist. And she told me 1.2 million people have now left Israel. She said it is completely dead. Their economy is gone. So she was of Jewish faith. And she said, "Michelle, I know you're a Christian, and I just have to tell you, either God is coming back soon or the world is changing for the better. I don't know. And maybe your faith teaches that." So she's been asking me a lot of questions about it. But I just thought two things have been felt pretty prophetic and incredible. So I just wanted to mention that to everybody. Great space. Thanks so much for listening.
Let me drop some
Thank you,
sugar
Michelle.
on that, Michelle. Bringing up 421 because I'm sorry, April 21st as the recognized founding of Rome. So a few weeks ago, I think it was within the last 30 days. You guys all saw the mainstream media posting the article about those clone dire wolves, from way back in the dinosaur days, or whatever the case may be, right? Which is a whole conversation of its own with CRISPR and all that other stuff. But in that litter of clone dire wolves were two males, and they named those two males Romulus and Remus. Now, why that's significant is because the legend of Rome is that there was these two demigods, and their names were Romulus and Remus, and they were fighting over, I don't remember all the details of the story, but they were fighting over this, and essentially, this is how Rome was created. What's even more interesting, because I've continued to research this in the last few days, is these two demigods that are considered twins. Well, the reason that they survived, because they were supposed to die, but the reason that they survived was they were raised by a she wolf. Um, and there's a whole thing on there. So it's just interesting that on April 21st, and then everything you articulated about, when the Pope dies, and this woman's foreknowledge of that, but also you have sometime in the last 30 days these dire wolves that were cloned, and they happen to name the two males in there. They would name them the names of these demigods, and these demigods were able to survive because they were raised by a she wolf, which, the dire wolves, and then all it just there's too much there to say that this is all just a big coincidence.
That post also with Elon and the direwolves also connects to our ascension, which is tied to the demigods as well. So it's definitely all going to the same place. Super exciting times.
And there's a lot of talk out there recently about ascension. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to that, but yeah, that's going on as well. Sergeant, go ahead. You can ask, or go ahead and make your comment, whatever, and then we'll round it out. Act 1776. So go ahead, Sergeant.
Yeah, Jen, you're starting to cut out again. Just real quick, I want to bring something up to Alpha. Marine to Marine. Israel is like our closest ally in the Middle East, and they have been for years and years. Um, it, as Christians, we have to realize that Jerusalem is our holy land as a Christian. That is our holy land. Do you see any shift in political philosophy going forward? I know Trump already made Jerusalem the embassy and stuff like that, but what do you see coming forward as time goes on in relationship to our bonds with Israel and the Holy Land?
What a question to ask when we're trying to bring this in for a landing there, Sarge. I'll give the short, skinny one because we've addressed this a lot. I'll preface this with, and Jenny knows what I'm going to say here. There's a separation between governments and people. 100% that at its foundation. That said, there there's a lot that's been revealed, and a lot that's going to be revealed, and a lot that's going to be confirmed on who are allies and who's not allies. And without going too far into this conversation, because it's a conversation of its own, we've been doing coups all over the world to take control over governments. That's, and when I say we, I'm talking about, like, our, not just our country, but the collective, the deep state ran apparatus of governments, right? And it's there's plenty of evidence that shows that Israel, when I say Israel, like I said, I'm referring to the government, the intelligence agencies, Mossad, Unit 1800, LDF, etc., has absolutely compromised a major portion of our government. That's been leveraged. We know that Epstein is at least, if not in whole, a Mossad operation. But we've also seen that the CCP has compromised our government. There's a lot of entities that have controlled our government. Some have done it over the illusion of being our allies, and others have done it through, what we've been talking about a lot in this episode today, through honeypots, through leverage, through compromising, things like that. So, what I think we're going to see, specific to your question surrounding Israel, is there's a reason that all this is happening at the same time. What's going on with the Vatican? Who's the next pope going to be? The Vatican has also kept a lot of secrets, not only from its people, but from the world. And so we just don't know the complete picture when it comes to religion. We don't. We know the information that we've been allowed to know. And I think that when we do get the full scope of what needs to be revealed, that it's going to shift a lot of opinions. And what I will say right now, and trust me, I struggle with cognitive dissonance myself. I don't think anybody has been able to just eliminate cognitive dissonance, especially when you're a person that is a very strong character. You're going to defend your beliefs. I know, because that's been me. So we will see that not just the Israeli people, but people of multiple countries uh, have more in common than they do wanting to destroy each other. And I think what we're going to see, not just through the revelations of what's going on with our relationship with Israel, I think through the revelations of what we see as this deep state apparatus is exposed and taken down, that we're going to see a lot of our enemies, because we have to acknowledge that there are organic grassroots enemies that are part of these intelligence groups that were grown by terror, or these terrorist organizations that were grown by these intelligence groups. There are authentic terrorists that are in there now as a result of actions all the world military governments have been a part of. But you're going to see that we're all going to be shown who the real enemy and enemies were. And what I think we're going to see is a lot of us are focused on the conversation of who's our ally. And I think through the revelations that we're going to see between now and 2027 is there's not going to be a need to identify countries as allies and adversaries, because it's going to shift to identifying entities as enemies and humanity as a whole, a collaborative group. And that's what's going to kind of change the lens of how we look at governments, if that makes sense. And I hope I made sense with that, because that's an important conversation for me.
It made sense. Perfect sense. Thank you. All right, Max, 17 seconds, or make your comment.
Hey, appreciate y'all having me. Great space, by the way. Lots of knowledge. I just want to tag along kind of what a lot of people saying about like the USAID fraud and all this. I mean, we keep hollering fraud, 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 fraud. Where's Pam Bondi? Why do we still have an FBI? What happened to this same day museum deal Cash was talking about? I mean, we're making a lot of traction. Trump's making big moves, but his Justice Department, in my opinion, has absolutely fell on its face. And everybody's hollering more time. Well, how much more time? I mean, I need talked off a ledge with his Justice Department, to be honest with you. And I didn't know if anybody had any insight. And then the other thing kind of floating around next days, oh, well, the Democrats have blocked no tax on tips. Charlie Kirk's one reported it. No tax on tips, no tax on, Democrats blocked all it. Well, on the other hand, they're saying, well, the IRS is a federal department, and then Donald Trump could close it today. Well, I mean, which one is it? You get so much conflicting information, and I'm just trying to find a group space that's honest about the situations that's at hand and willing to answer the questions. Thank y'all. That's where I
You
land.
you came
Appreciate
to
it.
the right place then, Mac. So let me answer this for you. And just to give you a little background on myself, I did law enforcement for about a decade and a half. I've actually investigated and testified as an gang expert in national and international crime syndicates. I've done UC style work, um, like just trying to create, my background, so you know where I'm coming from when I speak on this. When I ran operations on large scale gangs, not even just street level gangs, but you know, you know, uh, national, international crime syndicates. These were things that took months of investigations and even longer for prosecution, because we did the investigations the legal and lawful way. On top of that, while we're doing these investigations, the second you make the because what you do is especially like in a gang enhancement where you're going to take them all down in a time frame of a window. Sometimes that's a day, sometimes that may be several days. The second you make that first arrest, that person, because of our constitution, is entitled to a speedy trial, which means even though we know cases take years in the court system, if somebody chooses to be like, no, I want to go to court, you have to be prepared to go to court. The court's not going to allow you very much time when done the legal way to keep extending it out, which means if that first person says, nope, let's go to court, they're entitled to discovery within that window of going to trial, which means if you're still doing active investigations, if you're monitoring a wire, like telephones, internet, if you're still doing things like that, well, now this person's going to learn that in the discovery, which means, of course, that information is going to get out to all these other targets you have, which means it doesn't matter if you're prepared to make the first arrest, you have to be prepared to make all the arrests. Now, I'm talking on a national, international crime syndicate of just a couple thousand people. And this is how long something like that took us. And that's without my investigators trying to cover up evidence. That's without my investigators having years of trying to destroy evidence. That's without my investigators being compromised and working with these guys. That's an investigation where everybody is on the same page and we're all working in unison to come to this conclusion of a massive arrest and then ultimately massive convictions. And the fastest we ever pulled something like that together was probably 3/4 of a year. Now imagine being Pam Bondi or the FBI, where you have decades. Well, because a lot of people right now say, well, we had this information. It should be easy to just go do the rest. Having the information and having investigations, that's assuming that these investigations were done legally and lawfully, when we know that's not the case. We know the Justice Department, the FBI, the DOJ has been compromised, if not almost from its inception, which means that not only do the new good guys like Cash Patel, Dan Bongino, Pam Bondi, not only do they have to facilitate an investigation, they have all these sub investigations because of all the cover up, all decades of cover up. And so they have to go, and I would imagine that these, very classified briefings are to the assumption of prioritizing these arrests because some of these people may not even be alive anymore, but they're still important to putting together this wall of information, this large scale operation. So at the same time that they're doing this, the other thing I think we all agree on right now, because we've been witness to it for the last 93 days of Trump's administration, is our judges and our DAs, there's still a large portion of them that are compromised, whether it be through Soros or other factions, which means let's just say that um, Cash and Bongino went and did the arrest right now, and Bondi went and started to do the indictments, you would still be sending these people before courts that are compromised. And because of our Constitution, if you put these people in those courts, and the courts, because they're corrupt, say, oh, prosecutor misconduct here, something here, and the person walks, well, then they're never going to get convicted because they're protected through double jeopardy. So we want to see the arrests because we've been waiting so long. But the thing, and I say this to my audience all the time, what's more important than an arrest is a conviction. And if we want convictions, this has to be done the right way. Now, that doesn't give them a just blank check to, well, whenever they get it done, they get it done. That's not reasonable either. So what I've been telling everybody is, and understanding that I have a very limited scope of information on what's going on, but understanding within that limited scope that if I was in these investigations and I'm looking at the magnitude of this, the cover up of this, and at the same time you're cleaning your own agencies, I would imagine that we will probably see these first arrests following this significant marker. When you start to see judges and DAs remove, and it's going to be different ways they're removed. When you start to see them removed, because that in and of itself is a very complicated conversation, that's going to show us that they're getting ready to clean up the judicial process. And that means that the reason they're focusing on that, and like I said, it's probably already happening covertly, but when we start to see it overtly, that's when we can start anticipating that there's probably these arrests that are about to come out. And when they do, they're going to come at an accelerated rate. I would think that we are going to see this. And I know a lot of people and myself want to see it sooner, but just understanding that a lot of us on here are also vastly more informed than the vast majority of the what's that, baby? Okay, I'll go check it, sweetheart. Thank you for telling me. Um, understanding that sorry, I got distracted by my little one here. Oh, this is where I was. When we start to see that this is being cleaned up, we'll know that that arrest is coming. I think that is going to be either right before midterms or probably right after midterms. Just understanding that this has to be done in a way that doesn't just appease the court of public opinion for all of us that are vastly awake. It also has to be in a way that doesn't, shock the conscience of the vast majority of Americans who still rely on the mainstream media, because you don't want chaos, because that's what the deep state wants, chaos, because they get order out of chaos. This has to be done in a way that is near perfection. So I think that us seeing the DOD initially, have three guys that are removed, and now we're seeing that the guy that removed them did it in a way that is very suspect, and they're now investigating him. I think 3 weeks ago, us seeing the FBI arrest one of their own people at JFK Airport with 133 classified documents, getting ready to board an international flight, means that they were watching this guy for quite some time. I think us seeing that the DOJ and the FBI is cleaning their internal apparatus is more important than the arrest right now. Because if we did the arrest while these institutions are still compromised, we lose because those bad guys walk. So priority is clean up the institutions so that when these arrests are made, the arrests stick because they lead. So eventually they lead to a conviction.
He played out, everybody. It is a brilliant plan to play out, everybody, because what we're coming into is phenomenal. Go ahead, Santino, and then we will close out with you. Everybody, I got to get ready for my other show. So go ahead, Santino.
I just wanted to piggyback off what Alpha was saying. When we talk about the arrests, the Pam Bondis, Kash Patel, the Benjinos, I believe, when you're that type of person, you're not going to give out your cards. You're going to hold. You're not going to tell people who, when, how, why, and where you're going, because you're giving out your cards. So, and especially, you're not going to tell the mainstream media. So, I mean, when you're talking about those things you keep to yourself, because then those people are going to find alternative plans where to go. So, I mean, you're not going to hear this on the news. People are being arrested. Things are happening in the back lines. You're not seeing what. So I agree with Alpha. I want to leave with three different types of wins. When you
Well,
talk.
before you go there, Santino,
Yep.
I think everybody in here, I'm a California guy, right? I think everybody acknowledged California and New York are probably two of the most compromised states. I don't think anybody's going to argue with me on those points. Go when you guys have a chance and research. I want to say it's called Operation Reclaim and Rebuild, or it's Operation Reclaim and something. It's an operation specifically that has happened here in California after Trump became president. Now we know, at least we see optically, that California is controlled by the deep state. We see that with Newscom, right? This particular operation has already yielded over 500 arrests specific to human trafficking. And so, do you think that our DOJ doesn't have power if they're able to facilitate this kind of operation in an area that is so compromised, like the state of California? That wouldn't be possible. So that just shows, to support what you're saying, Santino. I'll give it back to you, brother.
No, you're absolutely correct. I mean, we have to put ourselves in those people's shoes. Would you tell your prey where you're doing, when you're going for them? It's just logical. Anyway, I want to give three really quick things. Colombia,
You can't give your
President Trump.
enemy. You can't hang on, real
Go ahead.
Santino, real
Yeah, go
quickly.
ahead.
You can't give your enemy. You can't give your enemy your next move. We are in war, so you can't disclose. And Trump always says it. We will never tell. Our enemy.
Absolutely. Are you there? Are you there?
Yeah, go
Okay,
for
just
it.
quickly. You know what, President? I know, because you're breaking out. I just want to make sure you're still there. You're absolutely correct. You can't give your enemy all the info, because then what's the point? At the end of the day, there's three different things that I pointed out. Colombia, you know what? President Trump revoked Colombia's President Petro's U.S. visa. Everything ends up at Colombia country, Colombia records, Colombia pictures, Colombia the university. All leads back to Colombia. You guys should do a deep dive on that as well. Kash Patel. We have to educate people on the Federal Reserve. It's not public identity. It's a private entity. The robber barons that they stayed in this country who manipulated the currency to their advantage, they need to be tackled. Again, it is not an economic guru. I just know it is a problem. To be honest, we have to start finding a solution. The third one, this is massive. I believe it's massive. Pete Hegseth said officially announces the U.S. military is bringing back over 8,000
8,700 service members who were removed for not taking the COVID vaccine. More than 8,700 service members who were involuntarily separated from not taking an experimental COVID vaccine. Those are his words. Others were informally pushed out or decided to get out. We are welcoming actively back those warriors of conscience. We've sent letters out and we're seeking them out. We want them back. Never should have been forced out to leave. So those are big wins. I mean, when you think about that, that is a pushback. That is, we're making movements. We're going in the right direction. Sorry for rushing because I know you have to drop it. So I was talking kind of fast. Thanks.
Thank you for being here. Sorry, I got to go get ready for my other show. Get you back on here and say the next couple for the beginning of the show, and I will again. So I'll get you scheduled, get you booked back on here, and we can do another show. You good with that, Mr. Alpha? He's probably
Absolutely.
so. With that, everybody,
Absolutely.
I'm
100.
Alpha's
Autumn, thanks for
secretary.
confirming.
He's absolutely. I'm Alpha's secretary. He's absolutely.
all right, sweetie. Alpha, come check us out on Telegram, everybody. Field McConnell is going to be on once again today. He is the original blower for 9/11. Out and talking about 9/11. So he's going to be talking about. Feel free to join us over on my Telegram page at the Revival of America. If you don't want to do that, at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll have Silk from the Flash. She's the comedy show. So with that, everybody, God bless you. We will see you on the next. If you're there, if not, we'll see you maybe. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you. Thanks, Alpha.
This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.